Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Apologies, we missed last week. Certain things happen in life was one of them. But welcome back to the Southampton Way Podcast. This is episode 13, lucky number 13. Joining me for this one is football broadcaster and podcaster Martin Sanders. It's been a reasonably disappointing couple of weeks. Let's put it like that. So since we last spoke, we got trounced by City. Go figure. Who doesn't? Not a lot to talk about there. We were tosh rolled over. Sekumara got his first Premier League goal, which is laughable, really, when you think about what time of the year it is. But yeah, he got that. And then we moved on to Palace, where we were frankly embarrassing. So we'll cover that. We'll also cover some goings on. There's been a lot going on at the club this week. Toby Steele has resigned from his position as managing director, which is very interesting. We'll get penny for thoughts of that from Martin. And certain other things. Share issue in the club. Dragons throwing 15 odd million to sort us out again. Lots going on in the media. We've also got some games to look forward to. Unfortunately, we do go to the league leaders tomorrow. Away from home, we'll play Arsenal, and we will talk about the goings on there. Next week will be our make or break against a local club. Won't even call them a rival. The Minnows of Bournemouth down the road will play, who can likely relegate us. So yeah, lots to talk about. Martin, thank you for coming back, mate. I know it was a little bit of a wait, but cheers for being here.
That's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Pleasure to try and get it off the chest again. May as well start with Palace then, mate. What did you think? I mean, I assume you were there, but what did you think of his lineup? Because seeing a Rebo start,
flabbergasted.
I was interested.
Pleased to see
Rebo start.
I like a Rebo.
No number 9.
But to come in out of the cold and he's not played any football, it was bizarre. It's not like he's been setting the world alight in the B team. We know he's a good player. He's been a fringe player who's not even come on the field. I don't think since the last cup game when we went out against Grimsby Town. So we've seen nothing of a Rebo. I was looking at what a few of the Rangers fans had said. I don't think he particularly played that well in a false 9 for Rangers. I don't think he really played there. I thought he'd done all right at Rebo, seeing he would be rusty. He's played no Premier League football. It was a big ask, but to go into a massive game against Crystal Palace, a game that we had to win. We knew after the City game, we knew we weren't going to get anything out of City. I think the most alarming thing that came out of the Man City game was we didn't really lay a glove on them. Did we have a booking in the City game? I don't think we did. We didn't really lay a glove on them. I thought we were a little bit... We were good for like 35 minutes until Haaland scores. And obviously, what happened. But the Palace game... Not for 1 minute did I really think he would go in without a proper striker. I thought Mara might have played. I still think he's raw. He's got a long way to go. But you've got to, I've come on this podcast and I spoke about Paul Onuachu. I do not understand why the football club has spent £18.5 million on a striker not to give him a chance and not to play him because he hasn't really been given a proper chance. People have written the boy off before he's even really had a chance. And what I've seen of him, it's been patchy, but when he started games, certainly the Chelsea game, I thought it was good. It was a game we really needed in Onuachu. We need to start playing a different way of playing, but it was so painful from the get-go. Maitland-Niles has let a ball roll out, didn't really want to keep it in, and he's a senior pro, Maitland-Niles, and it annoyed me because you've got to make an effort because you've got young kids around you. Set the example. The big players didn't set the example. Like, I'm a big fan of James Ward-Prowse, but he looks a lost man in that side at this moment in time. There's no doubt he'd go if we get relegated. But I was really surprised at him at the weekend. He struggled to get hold of the game, really. The two midfielders, Lavia and Ward-Prowse, did struggle with the game, didn't they? And Palace caused us so many problems, didn't they, in that second half. First half, we were quite comfortable, but we just didn't look like scoring. Theo's had that effort. He's got to do better. Theo, isn't he? Don't you think, Josh, from that effort?
100%. When I was absolutely tearing my hair out when he couldn't even hit the target from there. It was just flabbergasting. I thought it was a great ball from Camaldine with his first touch to play that ball through. I thought it was actually probably his best little thing he did all game, because he was sort of lost as well throughout. He's a passenger in that match. But yeah, Walcott should have done a lot better. I don't like the whole excuse that we're hiding behind at the moment, especially the players themselves. I hate the saying, would have been a different game. Would have been a different game. All right. So first of all, if you really and truly believe it would have been a different game, you should feel ashamed and embarrassed that you allowed that to happen. So if you really think that, if you would have scored that chance early on, the game would have completely changed, that should have been your trigger to go and do that again. Because and get it right, not just do it and then disappear, because that's excuses for me. If you're saying it would have been a different game, you clearly didn't see Palace play Leeds when they went 1-0 down and smashed them 5-1. So you're talking bullshit. And if you do believe that bullshit, fair play. But I actually have less respect for you now, because you believed that and then you continue to be a passenger in that football match rather than trying to go ahead and really change that game that would have been different if you scored. It does my head in that. I don't know how you feel about it, but that it was a passing comment. It really frustrated me. What would you? Well, first of all, on overall performances like Theo's, but what do you think about that whole excuse? Because it's been used a few times now, mate. I've heard it a few times. What do you think about the whole? It would have been a different game if.
I'm sick of some of the stuff that comes out with these players after games. Sometimes I think almost think some of it getting misquoted. Some of the quotes that I've even read from Walcott in the last couple of days. Like, hold on, mate. He's like, it is what it is. Well, come on, let's see a bit more. You're a leader. He's supposed to be a leader within this group of players. But the buck stops with the manager. He's took it. I just think he's took it too much on. I think he's proved the weekend. He proved at West Ham. I think he proved at West Ham that he couldn't get a side up for it. He got to get a side. You can't rely on the fans to get there's these comments about the fans that really piss me off. All this nonsense, we need our 12 man. They've been doing okay. Fuck off, mate. We've been absolutely shocking. We've seen 2 league wins at home. We've shown no fight. And you're like, the fans have been doing okay. The value for money at St Mary's for the last 3 seasons, since we've come out of COVID, other than the little purple patch under Hassan, it's been absolutely crap. The atmosphere there is lost. The fans are disgruntled. The club is it's a mess. But like I'm with you, Josh. I'm sick of some of the comments that I'm hearing from Sellers and some of these players hiding behind stuff, because it's absolute nonsense. There were some piss poor performances in that side on the weekend. But really and truly, are we surprised that they down tools like the down tools? He proved that he can't pick a team, Sellers, in my opinion, and he proved he can't change a game with his substitutions, because the substitutions, I just couldn't believe it, because Charlie Alcaraz is the only one at 2-0 that was giving it a bit of a go, and he's making things happen because he's trying and he's working hard. And look, he might not always track back, but Jesus, at least he influences it at the top end of the field. He takes the geezer off. Why's he taking him off?
And then we get, like you say, but we're on that. You get comments, don't you? And someone asked him how come, and he said he wasn't tracking back. I mean, it was
bullshit.
Awful, wasn't it?
Got to win the game. Got to try and win the game.
Yeah, dreadful. What were you going to say about Camaldine there? I found he was in patches in the first half. He did all right. He looked to take a man on, and like I said briefly a second ago, he played Theo in, but like the rest of the team, I don't know what he said to him at half time, but they all just disappeared after 45.
Yeah, I don't know what was said at half time. I think Hodgson, it just showed the difference between a manager that's got experience and a manager that hasn't got experience, because Palace come out and they were a bit more at it than we were, weren't they? They got great players, and Jordan Ayew I thought he had a good game, and Eze was good, and they were just out wide. They wanted to trouble the fullbacks, and all they did was get the ball to their key men, really. And they just played a little bit quicker than us. That's all it was. They just upped it a little bit, and we're easy. Once we go 1-0 down, you know it's game over for us, because we're not going to score. And at 2-0, they just capitulated after that first goal. Heads dropped. This little pathetic huddle. I don't know if it was after the first goal or the second goal, Josh. They've had this huddle and they didn't even really get together. And I just thought your body language there speaks absolute volumes. And when there's people walking out the stand, you can't blame them at that stage, because I've heard people saying about people not staying to the end. So, I mean, I always stay to the end, but you can't. I would not blame anyone at that stage walking out, because it was lackluster and it was piss poor. But like, come back, how long should we talk? We talk about Calverdine. He's just got as a man with no confidence at the moment. He's lost his confidence already. That miss against City, he's had the one-on-one. His confidence is gone, I think. And it's hard to gain confidence and rhythm when you're in a side that struggle to move the ball and transition quick enough. Just go sideways and backwards too much. What are we doing? What are we doing at the end of the first half? It shows how poor and how no idea we've got when they're slipping it across the back four and Ward-Prowse is taking it and giving it back to the fullback. Hold on a minute. Get on the front foot. You're in a relegation scrap. Like when we're 1998, when we're in a relegation scrap, you don't see players playing it across the back for you. Everyone's up for it. They want to get the ball forward. I'm so passionate about like wanting to see some effort and some commitment, and I'm not seeing it. None of us are.
No, it's dreadful, isn't it? And then you look at things this week, and you think, if you believed half the stories that have been coming out this week, then you know you see a clear reason as to why we're not seeing any effort. I mean, as a professional, you always hear out of players and clubs that he's doing the best he can. He's going to do the job for us. He's very professional. You know, but I'm sorry, if a player knows at the end of the season he's got a free pass to get out of the shitty situation he's put himself in and earn even more money for doing so, do you really think he actually is going to give a shit what happens? Really? I mean, I'm talking about players like. I'll dig him out too much, but to be fair, Moy does run. But you know, players who are running out of contract and don't know if they're going to be here next year, especially players like Maitland-Niles who's on loan, you know, and I just think, are you really going to be? I mean, Salisu as well. That's interesting. That whole situation, that debacle going on with his contract, you know,
it's worth talking about actually.
It is because you look at the stories. Oh, he said he's not going to sign a deal, so he's not been in because of commitment issues. Sellers paints a different picture. Sellers says no, don't know what you're talking about. It's an injury he got on international duty, which we know he did pick up a knock. But by all accounts, before that, it wasn't going to be an issue. It wasn't going to be a problem. So interesting. And Che Adams as well. His injury was supposedly not going to be a problem. And he tried to rush him back or something like that, which is confusing. What do you make of it all? I mean, there's a shitload that's gone on and been leaked about certain players, but what do you make of it? And another one, while you answer that, is the leak about youth players not wanting to commit to pro contracts. What do you think about all of that?
Well, going back to what you were saying about Salisu, he did come out, Sellers, at one stage, and I think it was Alfie House when the Echo was saying about it. He felt that he had this need that he had to sort of look after these players and protect these players. And it's almost like you're saying, he's coming out and saying they're injured and there's issues. You know, he's not really giving us the full story. I don't think there's any doubt that there's something going on with Salisu. You know, we talk about Orsic. He's supposed to be injured last week. I think they're trying to take him out the firing line a little bit. Orsic, I know for a fact that he will be gone no matter what happens. Even if we'd stayed up, we're not going to stay up. But he'd go. He's going to go back to Zagreb. He's gone. He doesn't want to be here. He can't settle in England. He's gone. But you can't blame him, can you? He hasn't been given the chance, the bloke. But on the Salisu thing, you know, you've got Maitland-Niles on loan. Well, he's got commitment issues on the field. He's still been playing. You've got to pick your best team. If you're going to try and stay in the division, you have to pick your best player. Maitland-Niles has been playing. Ali Newsey, he's been playing. His contract runs out. Walcott's been playing. His contract runs out. So all this commitment issue stuff, I'd say when I look on the field at half those players, I would say a good 60% of them are not committed at playing, from what I can see. And when I saw Salisu come on against Tottenham, I thought he looked decent. I thought we needed him. I want to see our best players on the pitch to give us the best possible chance to stay in the division. And there's a few people. There's a few things going on there, and I think the club's a mess. I think it's a real mess. I don't think we really realise how bad it is behind the scenes. I think from a playing side, I think from a management side, I think the whole club, top to bottom, I don't think there's any direction. I don't think anyone knows what they're doing. There's a lot of talk this week that they were thinking about firing Sellers. They've we'll talk about that in a bit, won't we, about Sellers, but and the appointment of giving him the job. But yeah, there's I don't think there's any doubt there's players there with massive commitment issues in my opinion. So Shay Adams, interesting one. You talk about Salisu and Shay Adams. Both were edging for moves in the window. Wasn't really spoke about in January, in the summer as well as January. Adams wants out. He's wanted out for a while. There's no doubt that he comes out and says all the right things. He's happy down there and stuff. Look, he wanted to go to Everton. There's no doubt he wanted to go to Everton. And if they get the right offer for both those two players, they'll be gone in the summer anyway, Premier League or not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And on Sellers, we will move on to him pretty sharpish now because he has. I think he's got more. I don't want to villainize the guy or scapegoat him because the person who deserves all of the heat is not Ruben Sellers. We all know that. I think he needs to shoulder slightly more than people are giving him credit for because he's not just a random fella who's come and been appointed as our manager. He's been around all season. He's been about all season. He was hired. He was headhunted, really. I mean, the board clearly loved him from his work in the background at I can't remember, was it Copenhagen or somewhere like that? I can't remember where we got him from, but they clearly wanted him because they had a clear out and they made room and they made sure that they could get Sellers. We saw the likes of club legend like Kelvin Davis was shown the door. Dave Watson showed the door. These guys who've been about since the Koeman days, when we were playing European football, all shown the door at the same time. At the time, I put it down to, Ralph had a terrible, terrible end of last season, and I feel like possibly they sat him down and said, well, what's going on? And my theory was that Ralph had sort of pointed a few fingers and said, the guys around me ain't good enough. When I look at it now, maybe not. Maybe that's not what happened. Maybe he didn't have as great a say in who he was who was hired to be around him. And Ruben will have known about us for a long time. He would have known what the problems were and why he was being asked to come and help behind the scenes. From what the impression I get from every player is that they really, really do like him. But that is, for me, in itself, is a bit of a problem. Because Ruben Sellers, for me, to 90% at least of these football players, Ruben Sellers is a bloke that they would have round their house for tea. And, they would go for a beer with him. And, the sort of bloke you like to have around you, a nice guy. That's not a boss. That's not a guy you take orders from naturally. That's not a natural, listen to me, I'm the leader. It reminds me of, you look at all of these documentaries, it reminds me of the one following Sheffield United when Neil Warnock was there. I can't see any of them players asking Neil Warnock round for tea, and that's absolutely fine because he could get a tune out of people. Old school. He'll tell him the home truths. I can't see that with Ruben. They all call him Ruben. There's not an ounce of gaffer, boss. Everyone says Ruben this, Ruben that. That's your boss. No one called Ralph. No one called Koeman Ronald. They weren't on a first name basis. It was boss, gaffer, the boss. Ruben. It's weird. It's bizarre to me. Have they hired a player liaison officer as a manager? Is this guy their friend or is he the boss? what do you think on that, Martin? And second part to that, were the board far too quick in giving him to the end of the season following the Chelsea win?
Yeah, I echo everything you're saying, Josh. I believe that he's probably too close to the players. There's no doubt about that. You can tell he's trying to protect him all the time. I think he's young. I think he's too naive. I don't think he's strong enough for the job. Look, he's been a part of two foul regimes this season. He come in and we were, we weren't great at the back end of last season, but we were so poor. Like early on this season, we had so many, I thought he was supposed to be working on set play. God, we were terrible at set play and defending corners and free kicks. That he hasn't improved us in that aspect, if that was what he was brought in to do. But, the players might like him. He might be a nice bloke around. Like they like the kit man, don't they? They like the kit man. I can't think of his name. Both the kit man. They're involved in the warm-up most weeks. Yeah, Forbes, top bloke. But he's probably good mates with the players as well. So's the other fella. But can't, as a manager of a football club, you can't be friends with the manager. It's concerning. I don't think he's strong enough. I would have given him a job. No way I would have given him a job. I think even myself, after the Chelsea game, obviously took temporary charge of Chelsea. They showed a bit of fight, bit of grit, bit of determination that they got a win there. Managed to get, we were under a bit of pressure second half there. James Ward-Prowse scores a wonderful free kick. We're lucky to walk out of there with 3 points. But when you look back on it, a lot of sides gone to Chelsea this season and beaten them on their own patch. So look, we done well to get a result there, but yeah, they were really, really hasty to give him the job. So I don't think there's any doubt that Sport Republic were trying to get the fans back on side. All the fans, including myself, were all singing his name that day. They heard it all. They wanted to back him. And I think they thought, we'll get the fans on side by giving Sellers the job. He's got that good result. Seems to have the players behind him. But really and truly, he's a stubborn individual. And I think as the weeks have gone, like he's had some big 6-pointers. Let's remember, he's had some big 6-pointers, but they've bottled big time. We look at the Leicester game. We walked away. I think in the 6-pointers, we've had 4 6-pointers. We had Leicester, West Ham, the Palace game, and you would maybe throw in the Leeds. Leeds away was that second game in charge. Didn't have a shot at goal. We were dreadful at Leeds. Absolutely dreadful. Leicester at home, we managed to get that win, but they had a lot of chances, didn't they? Late on in that game, we could have easily lost that game. We got really, really lucky that day. And then the West Ham game was unforgivable, how they down tools there and what they've done at the weekend as well. And bearing in mind, he was also, Matt Letizia said on our podcast as well, when he spoke about it, when he come on the pod with us, that he spoke about the manager having it on the CV about losing to a League Two side in the league in the FA Cup, and he's right. And all of this adds up now, and the fact that he's got more and more stubborn with the way he wants to play, he's not going to change the way we play. Like we say, we talk about him being a part of fouled regimes. Usually, when managers get sacked, the staff go. Everybody goes, not just the manager. His assistant manager goes. His coaches go. They have a clear out. They bring someone else in. And that's exactly what they wanted to do at Leicester City. They've changed it all. They've brought new staff in. Aston Villa, actually, probably the best example of that. And we can see what Unai Emery's done when he's gone in there. Look, all of Gerrard's staff's gone pretty much there. Mm-hmm. He's brought his people in.
Bear in mind, whilst you're on that, very importantly, sacked in the same week Ralph was.
Sacked in the same week as Ralph, and look at where they are in the division. They made a good appointment. Look, if we made a better appointment and we didn't appoint Jones, things would have been a lot different. But it goes back to the summer for me when all the mistakes were made, because Rasmus said at the fans forum I went to, if there hadn't been a World Cup break, we needed the World Cup in the summer basically as a Southampton fan, because he wouldn't have been in charge at the start of the season. Hasenhüttl, no chance. So they didn't fancy him, so they should have got rid of him in the summer if he didn't want him as his manager. And the buck stops with him, with Rasmus and his board of directors, because if they didn't fancy him, they should have done it then. giving him a chance and knowing they could change it at the World Cup. They are so naive in the decisions they made, and it's been a period of bad decision making from the players they let go to the players they signed to the staff they've had. They've made catastrophic mistake after mistake, and that will cost them Premier League survival. And we're going to have to hope that this Dragon's going to continue to back his fouled staff, because if I was him and I was an investor, you'd be absolutely fuming right now, wouldn't you? Because look, revenue's going to drop massively. Going to the Championship, it's scary what that does to a football club.
Massively, it is, and people are, they will look at the lovely side of it, and they'll look at Burnley, and they'll look at clubs like Fulham who've gone down and come back up. But for every Burnley and every Fulham, you have a Stoke, you have a Sunderland, you have a Bolton. The list goes on. Clubs that just cannot get themselves back up for one reason or another. Leeds. How long were Leeds out of the top flight for? Leeds are a big side with a lot of history. Leeds fell out of the top division and they could not get back for the best part of 20 odd years. Nottingham Forest, European Cup winners, could not get back up to the top flight for love nor money. And dare I say it, those horrible lot down the road, historic football club Portsmouth, cannot get themselves out of League One. As funny as that is, Portsmouth fell from the top flight and could not get back up. We should be looking at this as a big problem. This is not a we'll just do a Burnley, it's fine, because that doesn't happen often. That does not happen often. Burnley are an exception to the rule. Burnley aren't the rule; they're an exception to it. We can. The list is so long. Sheffield Wednesday, massive football club. League One. Sheffield United only just managed to get back up, went straight back down. After a season, went straight back down. It's gonna be very, very tough. The parachute payment is not gonna save us. I mean, whilst we're on the board, I think this is a fitting time to talk about Sport Republic, the setup, and what they've done. So, key investor, owner, technically, Dragon Solak. The money man, right? The bank. No blame can be placed at the man's door. He does not get involved in football. He will, as Rasmus said, he doesn't like losing. The man will not like losing money. That's the key thing. He's a businessman. He made his money in, I believe, Serbian cable, so like TV and communications, things like that. He didn't buy a football club because he is passionate about a football club in the south of England. He's a businessman. He's got a lot of money, and he's put a lot of money into this football club because a certain suave Danish fella has approached him and said, "Look at me, I'm great. I did this for Brentford. I can do this for you." And it's gone tits up and blown up in his face. Rasmus Ankersen has so much to answer for. So much to answer for. The interesting thing is, when we look at the board, we've got Managing Director Toby Still resigned. We've got this is written down on the Premier League website, by the way. So directors, Dragon Solak, obviously. Henrik Kraft couldn't really get to the grips of what Henrik does, even from the forum. Not quite sure. Maybe you'd be able to help us a little bit on that, Martin. But we go down. So Martin Semmens, we know what he does. And as you said before we started filming, wouldn't be surprised to see Mr. Semmens go. Toby Still, gone. Matt Crocker as well, gone, leaving at the end of the season. These are guys that haven't been about for 5 minutes. They've been about for a while. Toby Still's been about since 2016. Matt Crocker, I believe, longer than that. Mixed reaction to Toby Still. Adam Blackmore saying another good one gone, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Toby Still. He didn't really address too much of the issues with regards to things we wanted to know about, like the Itchin North and all that nonsense. But it's more interesting to see that he's been here for so long, and now he's left. At the same time, Matt Crocker's left, and that's even skimming over all of the ones that have left earlier in the season, like Joe Shields and all these sorts of guys. Do you think this is rats off a sinking ship, to coin the phrase, or do you think this is potentially a stroke of genius and they're finding out who the real problems were? You know, I mean, I know it's a long shot, but do you feel like maybe there's a couple of fall guys here?
I think Sports Republic, for me, tried to make too many changes too soon at the football club. And it's not been able to withstand it. You know, you spoke about Joe Shields coming in and doing a recruitment. That he's come in and he's flashing the power merchant. He signed all these kids. He's obviously knows an agent somewhere and got some agent friends. And he's just brought a load of players, and I don't think they actually looked at their playing squad and thought and analysed exactly what they needed. You can clearly see that from the strategy, and I think they saw Tino Livramento last year and what he did, and after he came in from Chelsea, and I think they wanted to get another 6 or 7 Tino Livramentos basically, and they thought it would work, and it clearly hasn't. I just think they made too many big decisions. I think Steele's he's a local guy from what I read. He's local to the area. I'm not sure if he's jumping a sinking ship. I think Sport Republic, obviously there's going to be a change in the guard at the football club. There has to be, not just on the playing side, but I think from a business perspective as well. They're really going to have to sort that football club out quickly. But the one thing that I think any football club that does really well is they get aligned from top to bottom. So what are we going to be as a football club? What do we want to be? What are we all about? What is the Southampton Way? Because I don't think any of us fans know what the Southampton Way is. I don't think they know what the Southampton Way is at this moment in time, and they need to get aligned top to bottom. It's even from like transfers. You know, you've got a manager, they're buying players for a manager. You know, they're just bringing in players they feel that are going to fit the squad. Well, hold on a minute. The manager needs to be aligned with who's what the transfer strategy is, and whoever's doing the transfer strategy has to be aligned with the owners. It all needs to be aligned through the academy. The way never talk about this playbook. This playbook one's thrown in the freaking bin now and starting afresh. They're going to need a new identity as a football club, but they're going to need a really obviously Wilcox is going to come in this summer, and he'd be a really important part for the football club. Because he's a football man. He won the Premier League with Blackburn Rovers. He's been at Man City, so he's been at a top club. He's going to know I think he'd be really, really pivotal in this summer. But he needs to come in and hit the ground running really quickly and get hold of this football club. Because like you say, it will spiral out of control, because you can see like Stoke City, they haven't come back. These clubs go down there. You look at Watford, they've gone down. Struggled this season. Norwich have gone down. They've struggled to get back. Burnley, like you say, Josh, an absolute exception, but they brought in an exceptionally top guy to be their manager of their football club. He's played under one of the best players in the world, managers in the world, in Pep Guardiola. You know, he was a major part of Man City over the years of winning the league, and when Guardiola went in there, what a top player! But he knows the game inside out, and what a job company's done there. They've been shrewd in their signings. They lost 21 players. They brought 21 in. I tell you, anyone that does that and moulds them and turns them into a winning machine like they have been, quite incredible. And isn't it mad that one of our talents is in their side, and he's their best player, and he will probably win awards left, right, and centre at the end of this season. Nathan Teller, he's done exceptionally well. Really, really pleased for him. But that club needs a massive overhaul, and there will be a massive change in the guard for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it would almost epitomise the season, the fact that Teller is going to be in the Premier League next year. No doubt Burnley will buy him on a permanent, and Jack Stevens will be in the Premier League next year with Bournemouth. No doubt they'll buy him on a permanent, and we will be down. The thing that keeps haunting me, before we move on to Arsenal, because we will do that shortly, the thing that keeps haunting me is that Luton could get promoted still. And that is, if Luton get promoted after we give them some, I think it was 2 million or something, or maybe it might have even been 4 million to pry Nathan Jones away in compensation, to get him out of Luton, for them to come up, and for us to crash down after that appointment would be the icing on the cake for me. It would be the icing on the cake. It would just epitomise everything that's wrong with our club. Everything that's wrong with our club and the decision making. I think the decision making is inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. If you're a regular person in a regular job and you make decisions that are so poor, and do it so regularly, you'd be expected for repercussions. You know, it would sort of be a jump before you're pushed sort of thing. So I think a reset at the end of the season is probably an understatement. And I would not blame any of if Toby Steele and Crocker have looked at these guys that they're working for and thought, I cannot work with you, cannot work for you, cannot work with you, and they've left on their own accord based on that. I can't blame them. Fair enough. If Sport Republic feel like they found the rats and they're weeding them out, if it works, I'm all for it. Again, it's another risk they're taking. So it's going to be very interesting. But no, I really hope that I like optimism, but I hope nobody's looking at the Championship through rose-tinted lenses, because it is not pretty. It's not pretty. Everyone should know that. It is an ugly, ugly situation. So yeah, let's talk about something that could dampen our hopes even more tomorrow night. We're going to the Emirates. League leaders Arsenal just got a point at the London Stadium, which is less than ideal for them after being 2-0 up in 10 minutes. They're going to have a bee in their bonnet, aren't they? They really are going to have a bee in their bonnet, Martin. How can you see tomorrow going? I mean, surely we can't get anything there, can we?
I think it'd be really tough. The pressure's off, that's for sure. There's going to be no pressure on Southampton to get a result. So we've sometimes played better when the pressure's been off. When you look at United away, when the pressure was off, we played a bit better. I think it'd be really tough. Obviously, they slipped up at West Ham the weekend. They started the game really well. The one thing about Arsenal, they start games on the front foot. They're such a powerful side, and Gabriel Jesus is back fit, and he looks such a good player for them. What a signing he is, by the way. Incredible piece of business by Arteta. But he's a top manager, Arteta. He would have sussed Southampton out. I listened to his press conference today. Quite clever in what he said. They're a decent side and done well under Sellers. Have we? Perhaps he was watching Southampton from a couple of years ago, because I haven't seen a good side. They haven't impressed me. This is a football guy, so he's definitely playing the game there, that's for sure. They're a top side. I think they cause us they'll start fast, and he wants to go toe-to-toe with them, Sellers said. His press conference today, he said, we will be on the front foot versus Arsenal. We're going to go and try and press them and win the balls as high as possible to win the game. I don't make my lineup in terms of whoever's going to be the 9. It's all about putting people in situations. Okay, then. So we know he's not going to play a 9 tomorrow. He's not going to play a striker tomorrow. Inuatu, the 18.5 million they spent, or Rasmus has gone and got. He kept saying at the fans for him, he got him some weapons. Don't fancy the weapons, or why you signed him. Why have you signed the bloke? Get him in the side. He needs to be in the side. I don't get that. So we know we're not going to play with a striker tomorrow. So you know how we're going to set up with our front three. It'd be very similar to the weekend, I would think. I don't know if Aribo will play, but I think Arsenal will go. What? He's going to go toe to toe with Arsenal. We're not fit enough or strong enough to do that. You can't go toe to toe with Arsenal. Not saying we're going to sit back and absorb pressure, but he did say in the presser as well today, we're not going to change the style. We're not going to start hitting it long. So he's not prepared to play. He's basically saying he's not going to play Inuatu. He's not going to play long ball because he thinks we're going to give it away and we're not going to get the ball back quick enough, and it will get hurt too much. But something has to change now, surely. Like, we're down anyway, but surely give it a go. Try something different. You've got the best crosser in the league of a ball, best dead ball merchant around. I look to find a way to free Prowsey up and get him playing a bit further forward for starts, because under Jones he played a lot better than he has been playing recently. but I'd almost get him floating around and getting balls in the box. They're playing a new attitude. Play a different style of football. Stop playing so fucking narrow all the time. We don't hurt any teams because we're so predictable and so slow in our build-up. Tippy-tapping it around the back. Have a go. If you're going to go to Arsenal, you're not going to bear to press them and put them under loads of pressure. When you get the ball, you need to move it and transition quickly and have something different. Come up with something a bit different. This bloke is so stubborn. And I'll tell you now, I wanted to say this a couple of weeks ago. I'm convinced Sellés, for me, will not change his ways because it's football snobbery. It's football snobbery not to change his way and play Onuachu and play someone tall up front and start lumping it in the box and get crosses in the box. Because when we have done that with Onuachu, he has got on the end of stuff. So change the style and have a go and try something different for once. You can't keep going and playing the same foul. He plays the same fouled way every single week. And that is going to result in relegation. But it'd be interesting to see what happens if we're in touching distance after this weekend, which we probably won't be, but it's 4 points now. It could not change. If we get smashed at Arsenal, which I expect we will do, I think they will absolutely rip our back for a new one. Odegaard, mate, by the way, what a player.
Wow.
He will run the midfield.
Mm. Yeah, he probably will. I don't think there's a great deal to disagree
Moy will
with.
Start, by the way.
Yeah, likely because he'll run, he'll press the channels. The only positive things, I suppose, is there's no Saliba and there's no Zinchenko. But I mean, really, I will say Rob Holding is a real weak link in that side. He's a chink in the armour. I watched him against West Ham and he looked, well, funnily enough, actually, when West Ham played a big physical striker in Antonio, he couldn't deal with him, Rob Holding, and it wasn't his pace; it was his strength. So watch us leave the 6'7" giant on the bench, which would be hilarious. Yeah, I agree. By the way, with regards to Tall Paul, I think he was one. I don't know how many other players registered a shot on target against Palace, but he did manage to get his head on a completely lost cause, didn't he, and put it at Johnson. He should be playing. He won't. He should be, but he won't. I agree. Football snobbery. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to. He's certainly not doing it for the benefit of the squad. He's certainly not doing it for the benefit of the club. I think he's doing it for his image. He's doing
his
it
next
for
job.
His next job. How am I going to look to an employer if I'm just seeming to bow to people? That's what he's thinking. Because he wants to be a manager. It's clear. And I said it as soon as, even after the Leeds game, I said Sellés is clearly got it in him to be a manager, whether that's here or somewhere else. He can be a manager, and he will be. He will be. And that's now what he's thinking is, right, when my contract's up, how am I going to look in the shop window? Do I want to be seen as a guy who's bowing to pressure from players or from fans? No, that's not what I want. I'll do this, even if it fucks up. Embarrassing, really. Embarrassing. You're going to start, no doubt it will start with false nines. Again, I agree with what you said and picked up on that press conference. He said it's not about playing with nines, but it's about making those positions so you can get into them to score the goal. But is it not proven that none of our fucking players score goals? And that's exactly why we went out in January and bought a bloke who can score goals. Why would you go out in January and buy two players solely for the purpose of scoring goals, being Onuachu and Orsic? You bought two players who have a absolutely exceptional goal scoring record. Neither of them are fancied by either manager you've put in post. So who's wrong? Who's wrong here? Because somebody is. Because there's no way two players under two managers just aren't good enough after that money's been spent. You don't, I believe a lot of people have fallen foul and not doing their homework on certain people. Nathan Jones being one of them, and the biggest one. But with players, you can't just go and spend that money. Everyone's seen now. We've as a fan, we've got more access to the inside of a football club than ever. You can watch things like the All or Nothing documentaries. you know how player sales work now. You know, these guys will not have just popped out of thin air. They would have been somewhere on a database, somewhere. We would have found them through something, done research on them, contacted agents and clubs and see what sort of price they can get for. And it wouldn't have been a 5-minute process. And in that, as a human being, we're not as humans built to go through with a decision even when you know it's wrong, and it can really backfire massively on you. Because at the end of the day, if Rasmus did go out on a whim and just spend X amount of money on players, he knows it will come back on him. And at the end of the day, that is a man with a huge ego. No matter what you say about Rasmus Ankerson believes himself. He has got a massive ego. And if he gets sacked, if he has to walk away from his position now, who the fuck is going to hire him? Who's going to have him near their football club after what he's done? He don't want that. As much as we like, and as much as we like to paint him to be a bad guy villain who's come and ruined our club on purpose, the last thing anyone like Rasmus Ankerson, who absolutely fucking loves themselves, is to show themselves to the world as an idiot. And he is not going to want that. So those signings wouldn't have been a 5-minute decision from Rasmus. People in the club would have made a short list of players. Whether we got the dregs of that short list is a different story, right? But people would have had a list and they made it onto that list. So they have to have been better than what we'd seen to go and spend money on them. Our key issue was not scoring goals, not having players to score goals. We know Che Adams isn't a goal scorer. That's fine. We still like him as a footballer, but he's not a goal scorer. So we bought someone to help him. And they've been snubbed twice. Who is wrong here? That's what I'm confused about. Who's wrong? What do you reckon? Who is wrong here?
Well, it backfire on Sellers, no doubt, because Rasmus and the board, Rasmus he came out and said that he was in charge of recruitment in January, so he's going to take it. He went and got the players. He said at the fans forum they wanted to give at the time Nathan Jones, the manager, the tools, the weapons to improve his squad to give him a chance to stay in the Premier League. And like you've just said, you've got Orsic, he's played in the Champions League, he's played in the World Cup, he got to the semi-final of the World Cup, he scored in the third place playoff, he's a top player. You don't play in World Cups if you're rubbish.
By the way. In Europe, smashed English Premier League teams. Hat-trick against Spurs, smashed West Ham at the London Stadium in Europe. This guy's got calibre. He's not.
There's a lot of clubs wanted him. A lot of clubs wanted the boy. You know, he's a top player. He was a tool, but he's written off by everybody because he's had a couple of bad performances. Look, he's had 12 minutes of Premier League football. He come on for 12 minutes in a Premier League game. The rest of the games he's been mate shifted into sides playing in a League Cup, surrounded by kids.
Surrounded by poor players who were playing poor as well.
Yeah, that have got no confidence. You're absolutely spot on. So he hasn't been given a chance. And all these fans say he's done nothing. He's been given a chance. Bollocks. He hasn't been given a chance. And nor's Onuachu. Onuachu was brought in to give us a chance. You know, and I heard Sellers say in a press conference today, you know, where these players have been before. So he's referring to Orsic and he's referring to Onuachu, that they played in different leagues and the leagues are not as good. Well, why did you sign players from that league then? Because the manager and whoever's making these signings have to be in agreement to who they're buying. I know that they've sacked Nathan Jones and brought Sellers in, but Sellers would have played a role in looking at players. If they're going to bring players in and they're talking about players, he was a part of Nathan Jones's staff, so he would have known what they were doing. And if they're thinking, well, they might get rid of him and they might have had Sellers in their mind to be manager, surely they would have had the conversation with Sellers. Well, these are the players we're looking at. Do they fit your style of play? Do you think they're going to fit in with what we need? Are they the sort of players we want? Surely those conversations have got to be had. And they're all saying that Onuachu's a Nathan Jones signing because Nathan Jones likes to play long. I don't think for 1 minute Nathan Jones probably wanted a bigger, more physical striker. And I think that we needed a more physical striker. And they obviously bought Camaldine for a little bit of pace because they know he's quick and he can run in behind. You know, he's complemented him with that. They bought a more creative midfielder in Alcaraz. So really, when you look at the three, you're quite excited. Then you bought a wide man in Orsic. It looked quite exciting in January. I thought, hold on a minute. We've signed some good players here. We got a chance. And then for the manager to be pig-headed and not pick him, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You've got to give him. You're not even given a chance. I know we don't see him in training, but to continue to play the sound, what is he prepared to play a finished Theo Walcott up front in the Premier League now over a guy? Look, I know it's a lower league, Genk, but he's a proven goal scorer. He's a proven goal scorer. But why the hell is he not playing? Honestly, it beggars absolute belief, and it will make it. That will cost Sellers his job. And I'm going to lay it on the line now. I think if they're in a little bit of touching distance after Arsenal, they will get rid of him. I think he will go, Sellers. He will go in the summer no matter what happens. But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes before. They still feel they're in with a chance. I'm surprised after the weekend they didn't pull the trigger on him. And they brought in a firefighter to the end of the season and somebody that might just give them something different and a little bit of a chance because there's nothing to lose. And the fact that you've got three sides above us that are so freaking bad. Now, you look at the sides above us, Forest are dreadful, aren't they? Absolutely dreadful. Leeds are dreadful. Leicester are dreadful. And Everton are not much better.
Still in trouble with a points deduction looming as well. So, we're not out of it. This is the annoying thing is our fixtures tell us we are because every game we have to step up, we don't. Our fixtures tell us we're out of it. Our attitude tells us we're out of it. And mathematically, there's 4 points in it with 21 points available. We're not out of it by any stretch, but we're being written off because of the way we are, the way we're led, right? The way we are led is so poor. I totally agree with what you picked up on the whole Onuachu Orsic, where he mentioned today in the presser about where certain players have come from. Highly disrespectful, by the way. Highly disrespectful, considering the players that you are playing week in, week out. Gavin Bazunu played for Portsmouth last season. That's why we signed him, because he had a good season at Portsmouth. Bella Kotchap played at Bochum. No one's heard of Bochum. Your main man, Yanni B, came from Lech Poznan in the Polish league. Romeo Lavia had not played a minute of senior football. These are guys that are starting every single week. How you can even come up with the excuse that, it's where they played before. Bullshit. It's rubbish. You don't fancy it. You don't fancy changing your ways. You don't want to say it, which is okay. You're not going to lay everything.
Too stubborn. The bloke is too stubborn.
Way too stubborn. And that's not what you need right now. That's not what you need. Not at all. And the scary thing is, he's stubborn, having seen 2 previous fuck-ups. He'd been party to 2 previous fuck-ups and seen how not to do it. So he went and done it again. It's just baffling. He's not going to change his ways. I agree with that. Just to hone in a little bit more on the result, have you got any form of prediction for tomorrow night on score?
On score, I think we'll lose 3 or 4-0, to be honest. I don't think we'll score because he won't play with a striker. I don't think we'll create enough. I think they'll pick us off pretty easy, Arsenal. I think Martinelli, Odegaard, the top drawer, Saka. In the game at home, we done quite well against them at home. They didn't. They were good in the first half, Arsenal, and they had a lot of possession, but they didn't really hurt us, did they? It was under Hasenhüttl. We weren't. The confidence was there a little bit more back then. We weren't totally void of any confidence at that stage. But you look at them that when I saw them against Liverpool, what a game that was. When they went to Liverpool, wow. It was so good, and honestly, I hope they win the league because I like to see a different side win the league this year rather than City. Obviously, we'd like to see us beat them tomorrow night, and it caused a little bit of a title upset. But like Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli, the front 3 for them are really, really good. And then their midfield, you've got Xhaka and Odegaard and Partey's in there as well. They're a top side. You look across them, he's really got a tune out of a Arteta, and if anybody that's watched that documentary, you can see what a fantastic job he's done. They stuck with their man, they believed in their man, but another man that worked under a top guy in Pep Guardiola, the same as Vincent Kompany. 2 things going on there, eh?
Yeah, surprising, is it? Yeah, he is one of the greats of all time, any Pep. But yeah, Arteta is. I agree. But he can be temperamental at times in some of the things he says. I think a lot of the stuff, like you say, if you've watched the documentary, a lot of it comes out of passion. The guy loves the game. He lives and breathes it, and I got a lot of respect for him as a manager. I know he's got himself in trouble a few times this season, but with some of the touchline antics and stuff. But that's what fans love to see. You know, he cares, and that's what we haven't had. We lack it. We haven't had a man who cares since Hasenhüttl, like before COVID. Like the man genuinely gave everything to us. He devoted to us, and we haven't. It's just been void. It's been totally voided. Yeah, I think Arteta is a great manager. I think if for us to do anything, like you say, the only positive really is they have got a couple of injuries, which was key to the breakdown in the West Ham game, because it was clear there was weaknesses in defence with Holding and Tierney, who I really like Kieran Tierney, but he's had his injuries and he's not been able to get in any form of rhythm, which is fair enough, especially with Zinchenko, because he is a top player, Zinchenko. So that's the only thing, is possibly getting somewhere in there. We would need to have our shit houses in there. You know, we need to have it going on. We'd need Walker Peters in full Tottenham mode. I'm not letting Arsenal pass me. We would need, you know, Camaldine to be on fire. We need Charlie to be doing everything he possibly can, because, like you say, we ain't going to play no nines. And the only thing we can hope for is a Man United esque performance, and potentially that Ward-Prowse free kick hits the top bins rather than the top of the net this time. But I just can't see it. I'm going to go on a 3-0. I won't give us a goal. I can't see us scoring, which is a shame, but that is the life of a Southampton fan. After that, next Thursday, we'll touch on it briefly. We do play Bournemouth. We'll review it next week, but it'll be after the game rather than before, because it does fall on Thursday evening. So Bournemouth are an interesting one, aren't they, Martin? They seem to have a real deep-lying hatred for us for no reason. It's a bit bizarre. And they're one of them. I always had a soft spot for them. I thought under Eddie Howe, they were quite a likeable club. You know, they come from humble backgrounds, and you know they've still got a horrid little tin pot stadium that they reside in, and now they've got these new American owners. It's all kicking off for them, and big investment and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, Gary O'Neill had a tough one coming in from Scott Parker, who completely lost his mind at the end, seemingly. What do you think of them, given that they're starting to pull away from the pack at the bottom now, aren't they, really, with a couple of results, especially against Tottenham?
I do laugh about the rivalry, and I heard them singing all these songs at Tottenham the weekend. Hold on, we relegated them a couple of years ago, so they got short memories there for starters. Like, I quite liked them as a football club. I don't know what the rivalry is all about. I really don't, because I can't really remember a rivalry between Southampton and Bournemouth. The one thing that they've done, O'Neill and his backroom staff there, because they've got a decent backroom staff there, they've really they've done something that we haven't done. They look fitter, they look a little bit stronger, but they look really together, and they actually really work for one another. I noticed the work ethic against Tottenham was really good. No, Tottenham are not a great side, and it just proves, doesn't it, that Bournemouth going actually to Tottenham and getting a result just shows that Tottenham are there for the taking when they come to St Mary's. So again, on Sellés, starting up how he did again in his team selection there, proves he can't pick a team. So I hold no hope for what he picks against either Arsenal on Friday night or what he does against Bournemouth on Thursday, if he's the manager. Jack Stevens I speak to a lot of Bournemouth fans around the South Coast, and they've been raving about him. They want him to sign. They reckon he's been outstanding for them. But he's a leader. He's somebody that we needed in the dressing room right now at St Mary's. Top man, Jack Stevens. I know a lot of people want him out the door, but he won't be allowed to play, luckily, against us. But he's been tops for them. But they got a bit up front, haven't they? Solanke's had a bit of time in the Premier League. He's come good. But I think it'd be an interesting game, depending on where the table lies after this weekend and how fixtures go with Everton. Forest have got Liverpool, how things sit after this weekend, because it will be interesting and how we finish up. But it's a game that my mate is a season ticket holder. He ain't going to go because he can't bear the thought. We live on the Isle of Wight. He cannot bear the thought of sitting on the Red Jet on the way back, surrounded by Bournemouth fans giving him shit. So I can't deal with it. I'll be there because I love my team and I support my team through thick and thin, and I'll be there next year when we're in the Championship, and I was there when we're in League One before. I will be there. But I think it's a really, really tough game for us. I think it'll be about, maybe hopefully our players can get up for it like Bournemouth have been getting up for their games, because they've certainly turned it around and it's all been about team spirit and working for one another. We could take a leaf out of their book, and Sellers could take a leaf out of their book, but he doesn't like looking at the league, and I don't think he likes to looking at other teams, to be quite honest, because he's so freaking arrogant. But be interested to see what happens after this weekend. Will he be the manager next Thursday? I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, I think as Saints fans, we're generally quite well positioned to chat about Bournemouth's ongoings as well, because a lot of us do stick Solent on the way home from matches and have to sit through a lot of John Williamson and Guy Whitnam and all these guys, and talking about Bournemouth and listen to Gary O'Neill on the way home and stuff. And from what he's been through this season, not once as Gary O'Neill, not when every single fan was calling for action and calling for his head because it looked certain that they were going, not once did he say they need to get behind us and they need to get, they need to help us. It was, I understand, and all I can ask for is their patience, because I'm trying. It wasn't, he took accountability, and look at what the group's doing for him now. They are fighting every week, even if they're not playing great, they're fighting, and you can see it. It's clear to see, and he's clearly a man of his morals and stuff. I mean, what happened? I think the technical stuff, stormed down the tunnel, didn't shake his hand and stuff, and he sort of pointed that out, which I found quite amusing. But he's clearly a man who isn't stuck in his way. He's figured out that something wasn't going wrong, and he's changed it, because it was going tits up. They lost to us. What does that say? That's really bad. They lost to us. So he realised something was going wrong. He plays the players that were recruited for him in January. Noted. He's given them chances. Their big one, Dongo Otara, who they spent a lot of money on as a kid from France. I know they own the club that they bought him from and stuff, and that's a little bit whatnot, but it doesn't matter. But Dongo Otara has struggled. He's a young kid. He's shown flashes, but overall he's been pretty poor. And yet he pops up with a winning goal against Tottenham. Because, what happens when you give a player a chance that you've signed on the basis that you think he's good enough? And Gary O'Neill's trusted his higher ups, and he's worked with it. And I've got a lot of respect for that. I've got a lot of respect for it. I've got respect for the way that he conducts himself. I'm a bit embarrassed for the Bournemouth fans and the way they're conducting themselves with this whole rivalry nonsense. I think there's more rivalry between Southampton and Gosport Town than there is Southampton and Bournemouth. It's not a thing. So yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting atmosphere. Like you, I'll be there. Probably head in hands most of the game, but we'll see. Hard to put a score prediction in because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But if you could, Martin, would you dare to give me some sort of prediction?
I think we're beating at home. Maybe sneak a 1-0 win. Maybe. I'd like to see us win, depending on what happens. Depends if we get absolutely obliterated tomorrow night at the Emirates. I think if we got obliterated, confidence could be low. But I don't want to see us go down with a whimper. No, but it looks like we're odds-on favourites to go down. We know that. But I just want to show a bit of fight and a bit of character now. That they could be safe by the time they play us anyway. They're stay up Bournemouth now, just by putting that run again. Just shows by that little international break was an opportunity to reset, come back, and really hit the ground running. They did, we didn't. And that's the difference. And it just showed if we could have got that run together, we would have got out of it. But we needed to put that run together, that bit of consistency, all this nonsense about an identity and a style to play. He ain't got a clue about identity and style to play. Hasn't got a clue. And I can't believe these players. Honestly, I could go on about it all day, but go back to the Bournemouth game. I think it'd be really tough, but I'd love to see just a 1-0 win. Yeah,
I'd like to see a win as well. I am going to get my early 1-0 loss in because I do think it will be a very horrible place to be. Come that 90-minute mark, I can feel a lot of anger, but then again, if we go and beat Arsenal tomorrow, you never know. So it's football's a funny game, and us fans are fickle, and there's no hiding from that. But I think I'm going to get it in now. I do think we probably will lose because we never show up. And yeah, I agree with you. It's funny it's amazing what a small little run of games can do. And I was speaking to my brother-in-law about this today, and I said that the thing is with us after the international break is we didn't even need to go like string games together. I don't think any fans were sort of like, right, we need to win one and then get a draw and then win the next one, and then we got all this confidence. I don't think it was like that. I mean, I look at it, if we would have actually decided to lace our boots up and play some football against Nottingham Forest at home, and Nottingham Forest that had only scored one away goal all season, and we'd won against them, even if we just nicked one scrappy, we'd beaten Forest, the worst away record in the league if we'd just beaten Forest at home, which it was not a tall order. And then if we had gone and taken 3 points when we were 1-0 up against 10 men at home against Wolves, we wouldn't even be in the relegation zone. And that's keeping everything else the same. It'd say every single result, bar those two, would have gone the same. If we would have picked up 3 points in a game we were winning with an extra man, and a game we should have won but didn't show up, we wouldn't be in this relegation zone. So I don't even think it's about like we need one and then another and then another. I think it's the fact that we've not shown up so consistently as to why we are where we are. And the players
we haven't beaten the teams around us, have we?
No,
the teams
never.
around us, the games that we had to win, like you say, the Forest, the Wolves, the West Hams.
It's the severity of the bottle as well. The severity of the bottle.
Even Palace at the weekend. Yeah, and the fact that players down the tools like they do, because Jesus, they're not proud to put on the Southampton football shirt. That's for sure. No, they're all on the phone onto their agents. They're like, literally, can you get me a move? Can you get me a move? Where can I be next year? That's all they're doing, mate. There's no doubt about that.
Body language is massive as well. And when you look at, I just sat there in my seat for probably 10-15 minutes while the stadium cleared on Saturday, and as sad as it sounds, I was sat there just taking it in, listening to the Palace fans singing and thinking, like this was us not long ago, enjoying the sing songs, and just thinking that I've probably got there's 4 more times going to do this while we're in the Premier League, and God knows when I'm going to do this again. So I just sat there, I took it in, I watched everything, I watched how the players interacted with each other. I just sat and took everything in, and the body language after you've just lost, like the way you lost, players standing about and covering their mouths for a chat with the other guy, the opposition, like almost to talk about. What else is there to talk about? You're not going to say, "Oh, that was a great game, mate." You're going to talk personal stuff. Maybe they know each other through agents or friends or played with certain players that do. They're going to be talking about where they're heading, what they're going to do. The players are egotistical. Football players have massive egos. This is built up into them. They have egos, and they will not want to be seen by other players as to be going down with a whimper. They'll be pointing fingers. They stand there after the game talking to the guys who've just smashed them with a look on their face as if I'm better than this. No, you're not, mate. None of you are better than that. And the fact you're standing about to have a nice chit chat with those boys that have just smashed you. Could you imagine, for example, a Roy Keane knocking about doing that after a game? Oh my Lord.
Talk about Roy Keane. Now that's the one thing we lack, isn't it? Not Roy Keane, but we lack leaders. You need leaders, and that's the one thing I tweeted about this week, about the seasons when we're in League One and in the Championship before, when we had to try and get promotions, when the club was a mess. You have to have leaders in the dressing room. And it's a good point you've made, Josh, is from the goalkeeper to the centre-half to the central midfielder to the striker, the spine of the team, for me, next year, has to be seriously looked at. And I'm including the goalkeeper in that, because everyone thinks that Bazunu's good enough for the Championship. I think he needs a really good backup, or they need to bring someone in with some real experience to help him. Because if we had a number 2 that was good enough, they would have been in the side a long time ago, back at Forest, because he needed taking out the side, that boy. But they don't have leaders. James Ward-Prowse is supposed to be the leader. Yeah, he might lead by example and the way he conducts himself on and off the pitch. He's not a Roy Keane. He's not a Stuart Pearce, Paul Ince type player, is he? He doesn't lead vocally. And that's what that side need. They need someone that's vocal. Like you say, there's just no leaders there. There's no leaders there, mate. I'm glad you brought that up, actually.
Yeah, go back to League One because you mentioned it. Spine of the team, Kelvin Davis in goal, Jose Fonte at centre back, Dean Hammond centre mid, Ricky Lambert striker. That's a spine of leaders. Every single one of them was a leader.
And the likes of Jaidi in League One as well.
Yeah. Radi Jaidi,
top guy
as well. Big Radi. And you look at like that spine. It's beggars belief that we don't even the one player that could do that, or maybe two of them. Maybe Fraser was that sort of guy as well. But we've sent him out on loan. Jack Stevens was the only person who did that for us. The only person. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I know I'd use Roy Keane as an example, but I as I said it, I'm thinking back in the old Great Escapes. Could you ever imagine being at the Dale sat there after you've just lost a dismal game against a Palace or a Fulham or someone like that, someone you should be challenging? And could you imagine sat there looking at Franny Benali and Jimmy Case and Matt Letizia covering their mouths with their hands on their hips, talking to the opposition who've just smacked them? It would never happen. They'd hang their heads, they'd walk off that pitch, and they'd take a good hard look at themselves because they cared. It's sickening what we're going through. Sickening to see what these players are doing.
They're all multi-millionaires. And how do you motivate a multi-millionaire? I had this conversation with someone the other day. It's a massive part of it because they'll be looking for the next contract. All these players will be looking for the next contract because some of them have relegation clauses. The majority of them would, so they'll take it. I spoke to a football agent a couple of days ago. It's a 40 to 50% cut in wages when you get relegated. So look, they'll all be looking for moves. And do you know what? People I took a lot of stick this week for a few things I've said about players and having a massive clear out in the summer and maybe not starting Bazunu next season, and people say, "Oh, he's good enough for the championship. Mara's good enough for the championship. He's good enough for the championship." It's like they're a bunch of losers at this moment in time. What they've down tools, they're not fit to wear this football shirt, the Southampton football shirt at the moment. What's going to make them in a lower league, the championship, a scrappy league, all of a sudden want to put on the Southampton football shirt, wear it with passion, and change mentality? Because the mentality of the players we've got in that current crop is bad, and I would say we're going to need to lose 15, 20 of those players. We've got a 35-man squad. There might be two or three that you could rely on there, but God, are they going to have a clear out this summer with relegation? Wow. Honestly, we'll do a whole podcast on it easy on what you'd have to do.
Absolutely. But also, I agree with that. I saw your tweets. I agree with everything you said, and for people to be as naive as to think that the boys would just walk the championship when they clearly didn't sit through the Grimsby game because they got outfought by 11 men on that night. They weren't League Two players on that night. They were 11 men who wanted it more than they did. It was pitiful to watch.
They've got a losing mentality. That is the problem. Dreadful. When you get a losing mentality, it could spiral out of control in the next division. No, not only do we talk, we can go through all the lower league sides we played against this year. You know, the FA Cup against Blackpool, they were absolutely dreadful. They were awful. They looked way short. You would have thought they were in leagues above us. Sheffield Wednesday in the League Cup, dreadful.
Yeah, awful.
Yeah, they had to go to penalties. Like, they talk about Adam Armstrong dropping down and being a key player in the Championship. His confidence is so shot. Yeah, he might have had a good record before, but he's been a part of a losing mentality. The guy's got no confidence. He's not going to want to be here next season. And anyone that thinks that Shay Adams is going to be here next season is naive. He won't be here next season because he'd be a good backup striker for someone in the Premier League. He'd be a good squad player for, let's say, Everton if they stay up, for a West Ham if they stay up. These sort of sides, he'd get a Premier League move and he'd get big bucks. He's not going to go and play in the Championship. He's done that. Oh yeah, keep them. They do a great job. They've been part of a losing mentality, guys. Come on, let's get to grips with it. All these people arguing, like, they're losers at this moment in time. They've not shown fight and commitment in the Premier League. They will not show it in a lower league, and that is an absolute fact.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree. Mentality has to shift if they want to do anything in any league, and if they carry themselves into it, if they do get a move, Walker Peters had a interview with Alfie House actually in the Echo, and I would recommend you go and have a look at it because it speaks volumes, I think, because one of the main things Walker Peters said is you don't just get a move. So I don't know whether he's saying, well, I may not deserve a move, but I'm looking for one anyway, or whether he's pointing fingers at others and saying, well, they, other players are thinking about it, but they want to be a little bit less naive. I don't know. There's a lot of questions there, but the thing is, I agree with you, and it's very interesting in the way you say, how do you motivate a millionaire and all that sort of stuff, because these boys have got no motivation, they've got no drive, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I haven't seen anything there since maybe Chelsea. There was something there, but Chelsea were poor. Chelsea showed us their bellies. They were really, really poor. I don't see anything. At the minute. I don't see us picking up 2 points from now to the end of the season, unless something.
With 4 points from safety, you don't see us getting 4 points, do you? With 4 points from safety, will we get 4 points between now and the end of the season?
I can't at the moment, like you say, with the losers, which is what they are that we've got. With the losers we've got, we may get a point against Bournemouth. We could possibly get a point against Fulham if we really wanted it, because I think that's the last game before Mitrovic comes back. If I'm right, we may get a point against Fulham. Everyone else will smash us if we go in like we have been. We get battered. It's just it's awful. Something has to change.
We're easy to play against. We're predictable to play against. Exactly. Anyone that plays us sussed us out. Well, it's all right to play the ball across the back four and have loads of possession and make 300 passes or whatever Ward-Prowse is making, but you got influence the game at the higher end of the field. We're in a relegation scrap on them. We're on Saturday at St Mary's, and we're in a must win game, and we're playing it across the back four. It is absolutely criminal. How is it acceptable to play like that in one of the? And you can see why they've lost faith, the fans, and season ticket renewals in the Championship. I'll tell you what, that's going to be interesting in the next couple of weeks, because all us fans will be looking at what our season tickets are going to be next season, and they're going to have to be freaking careful, that football club, because they will lose fans now. Like my two daughters have had enough now. They're fed up of watching us lose all the time. There'll be people there. So I know older grown men, sort of retired. They've had enough. They're fed up with it. There will have to be a mentality shift top to bottom in that football club to really, really turn it around and to have a proper go next season. Because like you said early on in this podcast, this Rasmus Ankersen, he's got a big ego. He won't want to be in the he won't want to be seen to be getting relegated, let alone struggling in the Championship. Big decisions are coming on and off that football field.
Massively. It's just so embarrassing. You know, we're not using our players who are meant to be the ones that are creating things and scoring goals and stuff, like you say, playing Ward-Prowse potentially out of position, and it's just there's so much wrong. If it doesn't start tomorrow night, it won't. We're done. If we don't show anything tomorrow, we're done. Consider it done. If you haven't already. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening to us ramble for the past hour and a half. It's tough at the moment. Everybody's feeling it. It's nice just to be able to get it out. And hopefully some of the things that we're saying and experiencing are giving you almost a comfort that you're not going crazy, and that you are also feeling a similar way. If you're not, get in touch. We love to hear it. Everyone's got their opinion. That's the beauty about this game, is that Nothing is right. You can have an opinion. It's fine, and it's good. It's good to talk about. It's good to hear it. So get in touch with us. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on it all. Links will be in our description. At Saints Way Pod on Twitter. If you want to head over there, everything's on there as well. And do actually head over there and on our Facebook if you search Southampton Way Podcast, because in the next couple of weeks we have got a big guest on, who I'm sure you'll want to hear every word this man has to say. He will be revealed in the week, so keep an eye on that. Martin, thank you for joining me, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I found it quite therapeutic in some way or form, actually.
I'll bet. Yeah. So we'll catch up again next week, mate. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and hope to see you again next week.